I'm doing the after effect video after how I feel at the end of that meeting. Exhausted, demonized, dehumanized, somebody that doesn't like me, that wanted to destroy my tenancy. I found it very threatful that they've said that they've put me... Listen to that screaming. And they say, well, they're playing. So somebody's revenge. And what's really going on? There's a lot more going on than meets the eye. I've got a migraine. This is a persecution of Christians, and I want to do a second video about it. The after effects. So they say, oh, we're really sorry. So when they say sorry, it's the same as saying, we're sorry, but we're going to torture you. We're sorry, we're going to taunt you. And how long is this going to carry on? As long as they abuse their powers. So all I have is my pips left. So I am home with my door shut, and I can hear the screaming children. I have nothing against children playing. It's just that they over-exaggerate. And the parents let them. And it's all designed, I'm sure. Right, so don't have equipment. I'm not allowed to be anybody special, according to them. But the common people are allowed to be special. But those who have been harmed the most are never allowed to be special. Wow. So they've been let off. They're saying that between 7 in the morning and 11 at night, there's no law that prevents the children screaming like that. So nobody's saying anything. I seem to be the only one that's saying something. So I'm trying to figure out what can I use to... I've got this stone container, but it isn't wide enough. It isn't wide enough to put... I may be able to use... It's so annoying, those children. That I'm not against children. I'm annoyed that they're using it as a park. It's not a park, and it's not a football pitch. So the witches and the wizards are boasting in their evils to say we don't have to be considerate towards you. We can do what we like from 11 in the morning and make noise pollution. They sound like frogs and horrible ducks. But it goes right through you when they scream. I will protect you. So what time is it now? It's 6 in the afternoon. So they can carry on like that until 11 o'clock at night. It's not against the law. And it should be. And it doesn't consider anybody else who may want to have some peace and quiet. My door is shut, my window's open, and I can hear it. And the department for children in their secondary school or their primary school would not say anything either. I'm enjoying some orange juice. I'm cold. People are too afraid to say anything. Because they know that socialists and fascists have created these rules. The opposite of decency. The opposite of parents that discipline their children and tell them the rules. So how will they know unless they're being taught? And because I reported the fact that they were climbing over the fence, they're the same children. They're saying that that is not vandalism. But if the fence had collapsed, however, it would be then categorised as vandalism. So they're young, they're free. But their family are not giving them any guidelines. I just like to watch children playing. I would not want to stop them playing, but it's in the wrong place and at the wrong time when people want to just close their eyes and maybe have half an hour sleep, who are elderly, sick or disabled, or who have a young baby. But that would suddenly wake up from the noise. What's that noise? Who's screaming? All my life I adored children and families. All my life I ever wanted was a sister or a brother. And to be known, to be cared for, and to just enjoy bringing up children in the right way. Oop, have a fly land on my fruit because of a banana skin. I haven't tied it up yet. I will do before I go to sleep. So leaders that want to deny reality and live in some type of fantasy and some fiction, to say if you have a fly, a fruit fly, if you relax from pain relief, that's not normal. Of course it's normal. So, life is precious, enjoy while you're young. And I want to remove this hair off my face. Being disabled is not normal. So we need leaders and managers and bosses and families, professionally, personally, not just to acknowledge the fact that a lot of our activities are not normal, are more slowed down. So therefore, to enable us more support, not less support as disabled people, to say it is normal to be slow when you're disabled. It's normal. Instead of having bad leaders, managers personally and professionally, who are very wicked and wrong, that are blaming us for our disability and saying I'm not normal for not being able to afford a cleaner and a rubbish collector, both services. And so they're saying I'm the one who's not normal because I am in poverty, and therefore I must be demonized, dehumanized. And so they're saying I must be punished for my disability. I must be punished for my poverty because it's not normal. So they're right, but at the same time they're wrong, because even though disabled people who could do part-time work for extra money, they don't always have the opportunity to. So we have to articulate this problem, and we need to be able to do that. So I did notice what she said. If you don't have a single point of contact after the meeting with my the council office and the Thrive Homes office, we will retaliate and we will make a court injunction against you. So every time they come to help, they harm at the same time. So I've noticed that. They merge all the problems in one ball and blame the disabled people, the most vulnerable people, for their wrongs. So I need to find a solicitor who's very strict on civil rights and disability laws, but it's almost impossible to find under legal aid, and to take the right direction, and to hopefully find a rescue. But I can't say too much about my plans in the public. And oh my days, to come to realise that it's the neighbours that have done this to me. They pre-planned it all along, so they knew what their rights are before they attacked me and what legal protections they have. So they're calling me a monster and normalise it. So I've observed her body language. I listened to her voice, and she kept saying quickie, 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 as if a wanker is controlling my tenancy. It's not a normal human being, it's a tosser that is in control of my tenancy. I've noticed that she kept saying, repeat, or quickie this and quickie that. So it was a very disrespectful meeting. And so what I have put here in my pocket against this criminal behaviour, it's like they're the ones who have criminal behaviour. One brief retaliation is I have received expert advice, how they've ruined, my ceilings were ruined by the flood, why I should be afraid of my abusive landlord. Because they're confused about defence and offence, number one. They delay to isolate me, number two. They are not genuine, they are disingenuous, number three. They keep twisting things. Number four, they disagree too much. And I tried to see if she was going to try and be agreeable, but no, she kept saying disagree, this and that, to block progress. Number four, she influenced me to complain because she said, oh, things will be better for you. But they made wrong conclusions, wrong disinformation, false misrepresentation and files. I have no choices, no esteem, self-esteem, psychological abuse, emotional abuse since I've lived here for 12 years. I mean, even with homelessness, you could hide in a cardboard box. You could go and hide in an area where you have never been before, and you would not be recognised. Here, you're recognised by the same bullies and the same stalkers, and you are therefore condemned 24/7 because they recognise me. So it's nothing fair. It's all betrayal. So the antisocial are enabled while they victimise the lone survivor, and they don't have access to this social media. They have access to pennypot, honeypot, but they don't have access to the social media. So they have a license to kill. They have a license to drag me to court over something very trivial, such as being obliged to let them in during a gas and annual safety check, which they have to do. A big one, a very important one, every 4 or 5 years. And if I've had a flu or been unwell and I'm delayed for a month or so, they can take me to court over that. So this Samantha has stopped the court, but at the same time, she was the one who probably started it. So it is equivalent to domestic terrorism. So why would they attack the most vulnerable who cannot fight back, or who find it really difficult to find legal representation under legal aid, and who are then subjected to beg from the enemy in the mercy of the enemy? And I have to plead their mercy. It's also connected to my social media. Uninvited, they've come. So they've mimicked me, they laughed at me, they bullied me, they boasted in the fact that they've had a baby, that I never had a baby, I never had a family, I've never had any visitors that loved and cared about me in this property. I only had enemies visit me at this property. There was a pram and a pushchair in the corridor recently, in the honour of my stalker. So I'm getting stalked. Yep, and they pooped and peed all over me. And they told me to get out, because if I don't get out, they'll take me to court. So the enemy is amused by watching me suffer, but I also suspect that they have a secret camera in the loft. And it's mind-boggling. It's worse than a fly landing on my nose. They're unfair and unfaithful. But what to me is more deadly in social housing is that ever since I moved in here, the enemies were able to use my tenancy to kidnap my daughter under Section 20. So why would God tell me to remain with Thrive Homes? And I think it's because something to do with court and the law and how I could possibly have a compensation. And it feels overwhelming because I've lived here for 12 years, lived with the enemy, no choice, severely disabled, paralysed from ever since I moved in here. And it's only gotten worse since I deteriorated. I went to pottery classes, I went and did things at college, at communities to learn things. And then all of a sudden I couldn't walk anymore because of my spine situation. So the enemy has had everything that they wished and wanted. I never had anything I wished and wanted. So it's a very unfair and unequal society. They've insulted me and they're growing in power. But are they growing in power through globalism or is it something else? That's what I want to know. So it's an organisation that has been created, and this is not ordinary. This is a very, very, there's a mystery. It's very mysterious. There was me thinking I was mysterious, but there's nothing mysterious about me. Sorry, President Donald Trump. Since they've completely invaded my privacy ever since I've arrived here. So everything I'd written, they could see. They can zoom in my paper. They can zoom in through the special cameras that they've got in the loft. It's extremely scary and strange. I don't have evidence. I have hypertension. I don't have temper tantrums. But since they've provoked me and this totally disrespected me and have made a hate crime against me, every time I have communication with them, it's a trick and a trap. And the problem is, everything I request is rejected or complicated or delayed. They accuse me of being ungrateful too. So I'm being cheated of my civil rights. They've destroyed my tenancy. They've wrongly accused me. They've designed propaganda. They looked at my furniture. What does she have? What does she doesn't have? It's some type of a grandfather and grandmother, older generation that's doing this. And I've also noticed in the meeting, she kept going on and on about how unclean my home was. So today's day, which is the same day that I had a meeting video, I'm going to film around to find that cobweb, what they were talking about. So all of them, but except for one that said that she wanted to reinstate my free rubbish services. But that was probably a joke. They'll turn around and say, sorry, it can't be done because it's political. It's a new policy. So again, all of them had dug into me. So it was one me outnumbered by 4 people, which would be equivalent to 4,000, to 4 million, to 4 billion. It's multiplied. On their negative attention on one individual, who is me. And they're too busy making it too difficult. Not to mention the fact that I don't think I know of a single English person in this country being socially isolated and severely disabled that would be on my side, or a Serbian. So crucially, if somebody came along from one of their agencies and said, we can help you not to be socially isolated anymore, we can come over for a cup of tea from expert charity organisations. But at the same time, they're nosing around in your fridges and cupboards and making reports about how dirty your home is. So they're actually inspectors disguised as a social thing. So I want to transform my home to be model looking. Of course I do. I want to transform everything that's not perfectly clean to make it perfectly clean. But what's more important is a duty of care. If that duty of care is missing, then it's a battle. You don't have everything clean and tidy in a battlefield and look your best in battle. So it's dumb. It's so stupid. I think The Legend of the Guardian also mentions that, the children's programme. He said, what did you expect me to look in a battle? One of the owlets. I've had this illness since childhood. And that illness is abuse, abandonment and neglect. But I've managed to overcome that fear. And therefore I don't have the fear of being alone. Because I know that I'm not really alone. And I don't have a narcissistic personality disorder. No, I don't. But anybody in their right mind would become angry if they had to only have flannels to wash and not be able to wash properly in a bath or shower for 3 years and forced to live as a homeless person, where they would. So how I would describe it is similar to hopscotch, when children play hopscotch. You have to skip and you have to try avoid certain numbers even, or use certain numbers instead. Or a whistle that's being used for a dog. That's how I would describe this authority. I've also noted that it's extremely disrespectful. She wouldn't even talk to me, even though I requested it. So complaints make matters worse. Ombudsmen make matters worse. Every time I telephoned, they would sort of whistle at you as if you're a dog and you don't exist. If not whistle, make their voice more important than my voice. So they would exalt themselves over me. So it is some type of a sociopath. They have a problem with their behaviour. Because my character is being attacked, it's a home arrest. And any promise that they made, it's similar to a Nazi concentration camp. it's similar to, I don't know, how can I put it? It's similar, it's sort of similar to someone having an affair and saying all these nice things to you, but then they would do nasty things about you. So it's a theft criminal. Thrive Homes is a theft criminal. So even my shelter now is collapsing, and I'm being blamed at the same time. Well, you wouldn't let us in, they said. You could have been all renewed if you let us in. And they're already calling it history. And it's not history. It's only a month ago. It's June now. It was last month. So I don't see how they can call it history. All of this is not normal. But they continue to normalize that which is not normal. And that which is normal, they abnormalize. So how has this begun? Through invasion. But I have a problem. I cannot prove that they have invaded me. I've noticed that her voice doesn't sound the same as the voice I originally spoke to. The two main women, Dawn, sounded very different on the telephone to the woman that came to see me today. I've also noticed that Casey doesn't sound anything like the Casey woman I spoke to on the phone. They have a completely different voice. Maybe they hope that I wouldn't notice. So they're actors. They're hiding somebody or protecting somebody. And even the children are echoing that. They're echoing that outside as they're playing. They've never played that game before. I'll protect you. It's called a game of I protect you. So I don't have the right to have confidence. I don't have the right to ask for anything that I need, such as a bathroom facility. I'm a political prisoner in my own home. I'm not allowed to have any personal possessions. I'm not allowed to have any privacy, which is a human rights abuse. I'm surrounded by menacing, deep, dark, and dangerous criminals, which is enabled by Thrive Homes. So their staff have probably arrived on my social media without me ever inviting them. They're in front of me, they're behind me, they're surrounding me in all directions. So there is an expression that says something's in the future in the pipeline, which is sort of semi-darkness. It isn't deep, dark, and dangerous yet. Keep you guessing. So it's a tragedy to pay so much money to my housing, Thrive Homes, for my benefit money, because they threatened me and said that I was in debt when I know I'm not in debt. I was receiving full housing. I was, as far as I know, I'm receiving full housing benefit. So to be just asking for a food bank recently, and so every time I ask for a food bank, it's overseen by somebody else someone else knows about it. So it sort of puts me down in my status for using a food bank. So all this has been organised crime in order for me to use a food bank. Has been acquired information how they can further attack me for using a food bank. Then they would put down this is how vulnerable she is. And at the same time, they're threatening me about my rent in the central subject of the under occupancy fee that I didn't have to pay. They want to retaliate and get their revenge. Because when I first signed a contract as a tenant for long term, I signed it for two bedrooms with one dependent child. So all of that is hidden and an attack. Oh, God. So I don't understand why pregnant women who are single without a partner are protected, but women who are disabled and have a bloated belly who also look pregnant are not allowed to be protected. It's a beast. So they can cherry pick who they want and who they don't want as supervisors. I think maybe that's why they've sent these actors to come and see me today, because they knew I was going to record them. So they're helpers. They are assisting the original Casey, the original Dawn, to keep only themselves optimistic in case there is a court case, or in case there is a public publishing of how they're treating someone such as me who is disabled without a bathroom for 3 years. That works. They will say, we did our job, we did a repair, she should be using it. And my point is, I'm telling them, I can't use it after a repair, it still leaks, even with the shower curtains closed, and they're acting as if they don't understand. So I closed the doors when the doors were there, since I don't have any doors now for 1 year, no doors. So I can't use it even when the doors are there, because they're not watertight and because it's not properly constructed, the ground level. So that's their secret. They've organised this crime, and they've normalised this crime to make me have a trauma, to make me have a nervous breakdown, to make me have bad stress. It's a witch and a wizard. It's also a corrupt police officer that's done this to find a way to incriminate my behaviour. And it's tyranny. It's total control, no care. If there was care, however, and since there is no care, I have to call it tyranny. Because that's what tyrants are. They're careless. And they're corrupt. And they only protect them. They're only selfish. They only think about themselves. They also put false individuals there who are not real. That's how they sound. Pathetic. It's also the work of gang stalkers. It reminds me of prisoners who were chased by ferocious dogs. I think they've come under my balcony again. Come closer and closer. So they're always testing boundaries. They're always bad opportunists, these are. So Nazis and these monsters used to perform carrying whips and ferocious dogs, chasing the prisoners. And it's very, very similar, if I was going to use the parallel universe, how it's slightly different, but it's very, very similar. It's, yeah. The woman's head was shaved if she was married to a Nazi. They would shave her bald and shame her because she married somebody who was her enemy. So I could hear every single word amplified from these children. And probably it's their mother that has been leaving poop under the window. So she's the one who's a sociopath, and she's also spying on my social media. She's got red hair. I've got summer red in my hair, but she's like bright red. I've got carpet in rolled up after I've washed the carpet. I didn't. I called professionals to wash my carpet. So even though none of the neighbours said anything about the noise pollution, and I'm the only one that said it, that means all the neighbours are against me. That's what she's implying. And I'm saying, no, I did hear someone else scream at the children for being too noisy. So it's propaganda. I was just thinking how much freedom I've lost out. Wow, the pigeon just tried to come in the door. Oh, the door opened by itself. The wind made it open. I did close it, but I didn't close it properly. I normally wedge the door. They also sent me catalogues to lure me to come closer so that they can steal my bank details. So the fact that my daughter had a wooden bunk bed. She did have a normal bunk, but she not had a normal bed from age 1 all the way through to age not well, it wasn't 9, it was 8, and then at age 9 she had her first bunk bed to support if she had ever had a sleepover, one of her girls from school to come around. Nobody wanted. I didn't ask. I did send invitations, and they did not want to because they knew what the gossipers were saying. That's what I discovered. And the condition was she doesn't drive a car, she doesn't have capital, she doesn't have a family. She's wearing old clothes because every money that I had was given to my daughter, so I couldn't work. Ooh, it was disgusting. Gossip. Oh, she's surviving on child benefit. Nope, I was tortured by mental health services. So I could not get a job because I was tortured by mental health services. 115 injections. So they were outsiders looking in. And so anything and everything I had with my daughter was criticised. Condemned. Badmouthed. As if I was Meghan Markle. I'm not like Meghan Markle. So I did not have that freedom. And I think having a baby didn't ruin my life, but having a marriage that was dishonourable and being married to a sponger ruined my life. I died. Not by depression, but how did I die? I realised that I could not ever get anything I want ever again because I still am, under the control of sociopaths and psychopaths. So they see a fly, like land on you. Yeah, they're totally insane. I would lose my home over a fly and the fact that I haven't tied up the bin yet. So what? I'll tie it up when I'm ready. So I'm going to look around, but most of these flies actually come out from outside. And they're not natural, they're not normal. You open the window, it's outside. You see the difference between a fruit fly from a banana that landed on my nose. It's not the same type of a fly compared to the big flies that come from outside. They come in, even if you have the most beautiful perfumed smelling home, or if you had a smelly home, they would still come in. If you had a perfectly clean home with perfumes in it, the fly would still come in. So if I have a sardine tin or a jacket, or if I have baked beans tin, it will be washed so that I don't attract the flies and maggots, and put it in the bin. All in one bundle. But the lies, they're sitting on the fence, they're climbing over the fence, they are worse than the pesty flies. So this is how I want to correct those who visit my home. My home doesn't normally have flies, if the windows are shut in autumn and winter. But when the windows are open, the flies come in anyway. So she's ignored that to make a conspiracy, to make a smear campaign. And to boast in the fact that I was married to someone who was unequally yoked. And he was the one who contacted these pesky services. And it's a total joke. April Fool Day. So I think they did that for part of April Fool Day to make a joke out of me, to say that they can do whatever they want, even damage this property, burn this property down, flood this property, in order to make my position weaker, make me be more disrespected, disservice, and make themselves more demanding. So it's emotionally exhausting. I never saw my daughter as my sister, never. She never saw me as a friend, she saw me as her mother. They've ruined my daughter's life, but my daughter may not see it like that. She's gravely ill. And so they want to make death to Jesus Christ. They want to make death to say that all true Christians are the same as the Jews, because we're Jewish sympathizers. Duh. And yet you've got Jews spitting at the Christians. How are we the same as Jews? Duh. We're not the same as Jews, we're not the same as Muslims. So Jews being persecuted, Muslims being persecuted, and Christians being persecuted, and Black lives being persecuted. We all have a sense of slavery, the systemic abuse. However, it's not in the same way. It's unique. So I recommend this book, and it's called The Anne Frank Diaries. So she was a Jew who was persecuted, and there is all of the aspects of how her life has been rubbished and how they get away with it. Yep, and her diary, there's books about her, but this one I think is a lesbian, isn't she? But there's other, that's not Anne Frank. There's another picture of her. And so looking at how she had to die, what did she have to die to? The military zone, she sensed death. Deportation, forced to be removed from one country to the next, she sensed death. Fascism, which actually emerged in Italy. So you don't have to be German to be a fascist, you can be an English to be an extreme nationalist and an extreme political party. So what else was death and being rubbished? Being a boycott, to refuse someone to buy or sell. So if you had maybe blonde hair and blue eyes, you have more credentials to buy and sell, to use Amazon or eBay. But if you have dark hair and dark eyes, you're less likely to buy and sell. I wouldn't say I look like a Pakistan or Indian. I look more European, apart from this horrible nose. But I learned to love my nose. I learned to love and respect myself deliberately. I'd rather have a bigger nose than a button nose. I'd rather have man-looking lips than triangular-looking lips like this. So the word genocide, the ghettos, which is forced to live in poverty, forced to live without the resources and the facilities as I am, sensing death, not being able to celebrate, not to be able to have children to play with at home, or just to play. They refused to play with my daughter when my daughter was their age, when she lived with me for nearly 10 years of her life. And there's labour camps, forced the prisoners to be slaves to labour without any break or rest bonuses. But there's also the liberal Jews who are not religious. So domesticated is a dirty word. To have liberty is supposed to be a clean word. Do you know, I wanted to tell everybody when that woman said today at my home for the first time visiting me how dirty my home is. Do you know how much I wanted to punch her and break her nose for saying that? I so much want. So withheld anger can cause me health conditions, problems. But miraculously, God took away my anger. I took deep breaths, I coughed, and I didn't really want to listen, because I knew that they didn't really listen to me and that they were probably not genuine people, that they are actors. But I so much desired to take a big fat fist and punch her in the face, or slap her in the face for saying that my home was dirty. Oh, you know, your home is not clean enough standards. So it's propaganda. I don't know who's telling her to do this. I had to rationalise my food, and it's tragic that I could not have enough food because I'm paying all that money out on rubbish clearance, private collections, all the companies. I have nothing against my cleaner, my rubbish collection companies, but I'd rather have a cleaner and have free rubbish services that everybody else gets. Why can't I get it because I'm in the flat and I'm not in the house? That's not fair policy. They've done that again. They've done that deliberately to attack me. They wanted me to die to my confidence, die to my determination, die to my beauty, and die to having everything clean and tidy. So if I had those free services in the first place, to have that continuation, which they stopped due to COVID pandemic, no one was allowed to enter the building, which was wrong. Just like Jesus said, if you had your donkey or your animal fall down in a deep hole, you would, in your right mind, want to rescue your animal, not leave it to die there. So they left me and not provided me that service anymore because they were not allowed to enter the building block of flats. They also attacked me for doing the right thing, contacting the fire brigade to bring the wet hoover to hoover all the puddles, which is the flood is as bad as the fire. So we're looking at, in closing, the different types of hell on earth. There's vandalism, the broken glass, there's the floods, the waters, there is the fires, which are also symbolic to violence. There is also persecution and punishing people to suffer in silence or punish people who are without any political or legal powers. So I also heard her say she was going to do a court injunction on me. After they vandalised me and protected the criminal, they're saying if I don't keep up my relationship with her as a single point of contact, she will have to take me to court. That's how they cussed me out today. So my summer holiday is ruined by the extra loud children. Can't enjoy outside sitting on the balcony. I can't afford to get in a taxi to go out anywhere to enjoy nature. I have to shut my windows and shut my doors. I can't practice any of my civil rights or freedoms because I would be overpowered by their court cases. They have more money than me, so their court case would win and my court case would lose. So it's very, very bad. I'm not allowed to be loved. I'm not allowed to have anyone say, I adore you, I love you, but I love your God. We will worship and adore God together. I'm not allowed to have that. I think if I had a single person with me, I could then have a true witness to what's really going on. And to control the crowd while I'm doing this video, to recommend the book Anne Frank, and how bad it is for each group. So Red Indians, black people, Jewish people, Muslim people, we're all having a similar persecution, but it's not all the same. It's different. And that's my point. I'm also going to be doing a playlist. I don't know how many videos I'll do to help me take my mind off of fraud. And I'll title the playlist My Housing Situation and try and find horror films that have been made by other people. It hasn't been made by me, to describe. It's a comedy for the enemy, and they have shiny, gleaming eyes every time they have an opportunity to get revenge and to cause me an injury and to cause me an insult. So for them, it is comedy. For me, on the other hand, it is a horror. So I wouldn't call myself a victim in this situation, even if that they have more money than me, more legal rights, and more protections than me, more of everything compared to me. Even if that is the reality, I still don't feel like a victim. Even if they beat me up black and blue, I still don't feel like a victim because I'm not the one who's guilty. However, when they kidnapped my daughter, I did feel like a victim, and I did have a trauma for a very long time. It was as if I was raped and robbed by a group. That's how I would describe kidnapping. And my ex-mother-in-law. And they're bad opportunists. So they would extensively find ways to make comedy, retaliation, and look for a fight. They would continue to do so at every opportunity they have by a wayward life. But they don't have brains to do it. So where do they get the intelligence from? Who is teaching them to do all of this? They don't want us to rest, and they don't want us to have any peace. So which authority is teaching them to do this? Is it somebody famous? Is it a politician? So the turning point in closing this video, to welcome people on my channel, is to look at how it is incredible that I took my focus off of glorifying my foster mum, who is Catholic. I never looked up to her because I knew she was lying. But the devil assumed, however, that I used to look up to her. There was one time when I was very young, in my age 18, when I very much liked her as a real foster mum. And I believed that she cared about me because I was blind. I was a lost soul. This is before I knew Jesus on a personal level. And that only happened once when I was 17 or 18. It never happened again. Because soon after that, I realised that whatever I felt was actually an imagined feeling that she did care about me. I imagined she did. So I wanted my foster mum to care about me. But when I had an ear infection, I have a very sensitive ear, which doesn't have enough earwax. She was embarrassed to tell the hospital staff that she was my foster mum. And that's how I found out that she never cared about me. So why would I allow my foster mum in an emergency situation to be my next of kin? And the answer is because I didn't have anyone else. I had no choice. And my nearest relative was living far away. And they were even more cruel towards me, my own relatives, compared to my foster mum. So it's incredible that every time she welcomed me, I knew that it was bad. It wasn't good. It was a false welcome. and I realised that. I also illustrated that on my other channel, which is Penny Pot Honeypot channel, as a hospital patient, as a gentle patient girl, adopted in foster care, and how I realised that when my daughter was kidnapped, she interrogated me. She refused to see me for 10 years. And her other sisters and brothers that did care about me, they were not allowed to come anywhere near me. So I became devout Christians. I wasn't very literate, but I was illiterate. I teach myself to read and understand and wrestle with a bad ghost. I fought my own demons. So I became Christian late in my life when I was in my 30s. In my 20s, I didn't. Yeah, so that's an example of a bad Catholic mum who never had children of her own, who's taken over my daughter. My daughter's life. But that could all change. Only God knows. Things can change. Things are always changing. So that's the purpose of my horror films that I've put in there, to describe the situation with this nun, with my home situation, and how to be encouraged against the invaders. Because I don't want invaders. Every time they come to do gas inspection or anything else, any repair or refurbishment, to me it's the same as aggressors and be defeated by invaders. I hope with my full heart that I will be able to find a new home where this doesn't have to happen. Because in the previous address, I didn't have to have the landlord visit me every time the boiler would break down. I could just simply reignite it myself with the pilot for a flame and protect the pipes. I didn't have a boiler in my loft. So I don't want to be fighting against them. And if I find a solicitor, it will be to protect my civil rights in the process of looking for a new home, my voice, my Christian faith, my time. Because if I have chronic pain, relieving that pain is more important to me than tying a knot in a bin bag. So they are very, very bad, demeaning and demoralizing audiences. But I hope that my fortunes will change. And the disguise that's being used by the lot that came to see me today will be revealed. Was it Macron's idea, the French king? I don't know. But they definitely did come in disguise, accompanied with the real one behind the scenes, because it didn't sound anything like the ones I spoke to over the phone. So I close my video. I'm glad I did this video. I approve this video. I'm Mima Maria also. Maybe it was King Charles that gave him that idea to disguise them, to protect them.